أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So here we are with Surah Al-Burooj. This is a Meccan surah. We did the intro with the first three verses. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْمَوْعُودِ وَشَاهِدٍ وَمَشْهُودٍ last week. So we asked a few questions very quickly. I would like to remember what we discussed last time. So وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ, by the skies or by the heavens possessed of constellations. وَالْيَوْمِ الْمَوْعُودِ, and by the promised day. وَشَاهِدٍ وَمَشْهُودٍ, and by the witness and the witnessed. So I'll try to keep it in 5 minutes. So when it talks about the Sama with Burooj, with the constellations, so which we took it in multiple ways. The first one is looking at the night sky. You look up above and you see those clusters of stars which demonstrate an order. But since it's an orderly togetherness, an orderly cluster, we started talking about you seeing a pattern in there, which means from which you conclude then there must be an order. And we generalize this. In life, you see many such patterns, many such clusters, and you come to a conclusion by observing this orderly existence. Let it be a human being, let it be whatever. Like, for example, if with the stars lined up together, if the name Allah was written in Arabic script as a constellation, what would we say? Oh, look, like God's name is written in the sky with those constellation of stars, right? So there are different constellations though, because if it was written in Arabic script with Allah, it shows somebody consciously put them in that order. That's why you would say, oh, somebody must have put this as such. Therefore, somebody who put it as such must exist. But still, there are order everywhere in the existence, even including the current constellations. They are not writing Allah with Arabic script, but the order in there says Allah, if I pay attention to it. So what's Samai Dhatul Buruj? This was one way to take it. But more generally speaking, in our discussions, we also take the word Sama as the meaning, the purpose behind the material existence that we see. So when I look at that, like events are happening in this existence, but the meaning behind them line up together to point to the same creator, same source. So constellations are happening in Sama in this case as well. And the third meaning for Burooj, it's a constellation, but it also means like the Burj of the castles, like the defense towers of those castles. And in this case, if we take Sama as the heavens, the meaning, the purpose behind this existence, it says those Sama has Burooj, like the protection towers. And if I think about it, every verse of the Quran is going to become a defense tower, if you like. That is from where they throw, let's say, fireballs to the ones that are attacking those meanings. For this, the interpretation of like the, shooting stars that we discussed before, I believe we talked about it, or did we? Maybe not, but maybe. Yeah, because in Quran, shooting stars are being mentioned, but what does this mean? If I take those as every single verse because every single verse is defending or protecting a meaning, which is La ilaha illallah. And every verse is then becoming a protection for the attackers. So it's throwing, because every verse is an evidence. if somebody claims otherwise, verses of Quran would push back. Actually, today I was listening to an interpretation of the word surah, and the scholar was saying that the word surah was used in Quran for the first time. Like the Arabs didn't use the word surah. So, and in translation, they simply translated as chapter, but it says, no, it's a new word. Even for the Arab back at the time, it was a new word, or at least not used for that purpose. Because sur is the city walls, and surah is coming from that word. So by the creator using the word surah for the chapters of Quran is saying that this is the walls that I am building up, which is going to protect La ilaha illallah at the heart. If anybody is going to attack the sur, and the city walls are high and wide and strong, like impenetrable. So Burooj happen at the corners of those city walls. So those high impenetrable walls are there. Every single verse is as such, actually. The verses of Quran is those walls, those buruj, and it's right there. So in this surah, if we now read it as referring to Quran, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ, it is bringing Quran as an evidence, saying that don't you see Quran? Look at the verses of the Quran and how strong evidence, how strong arguments that they provide, which could be a third meaning for this verse. وَالْيَوْمِ الْمَوْعُودِ, when we were reading this, we talked about a promised day. What's a promised day? And we talked about how in this existence, you know that if you throw an object, it's going to fall. If you put a seed, it will germinate and give you fruits. If you slap the wall is going to like slap you back with the same force and whatnot. There's this, you put something and you get a response from the creation, from the existence. So you do expect this back and forth. This being the case, now human asks the question, I do choices in this life? Is there not going to be any outcome of this? Am I not going to be held accountable? So deep inside, human is already in expectation of outcomes of their doings. So Yawm al-Maw'ud, from deep inside, everybody knows that I'm going to be held accountable at some point. وَشَاهِدٌ وَمَشْهُودٌ, and this one is now putting human into the position of, look at your duty in this existence. You're a witness. Your most important duty in this existence is witnessing, actually. What else do you do? With all those sensors put on top of you, touching, hearing, like eye, seeing, tasting, and everything, as if you're put in here to be witness of things. This is your duty. This is why you're created. So be careful. You are invited to, let's say, an art museum, and it looks like nobody is expecting you to make art. Nobody is expecting you to do anything other than just observing and appreciating what is the art put in there. Just look at those constellations, witness them. That's your duty. But while you're doing this, you're being witnessed to. Now these three verses are setting the stage for on which basis, where am I, and what's going to happen next. Anything you guys would like to add, remove? Any questions, comments? If not, let's move on. Okay. Do we need to be trained to see the constellations?
Well, not to see them,
To read them. So what do you think? What's your answer? Of course, right? Because by birth, let's say, you are, like, think of it this way. Atik can talk French, Chinese, Spanish, Bengali, and English, but he only speaks Bengali and English. So potentially, the potentials are given to you as a human being. All names are taught to you, meaning the potentialities are put in your existence. But for you to develop these into actualities, you go through training. This is why Revelation came and said, read in the name of Lord. So this needs to be there. Okay. Now comes the new portion. Qutila ashabul ukhdud. Doomed be the makers of the ditch or trench. And nari dhatil waqud, of the fuel-fed fire. Idhum alayha qu'ud, when they sat by it, وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود, and were themselves the witness of what they did to the believers. وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد. They wanted to take revenge from them for nothing, but they kept believing in Allah, the mighty, the owner of praise. So it's an interesting set of verses. Makers of the ditch. It's talking about some people of the trench or makers of the ditch. So who are they? Who are the makers of those trenches, ditches? Becomes the question. So for the historical background of this, there are multiple narrations for different historical events, but the gist of the events are the same. Like there's a ruler and believers, like the ruler is against the belief. I guess the most famous one is a ruler, a king in like Najran, and like he converted to Judaism and then came to Christians of a certain area and forced them to convert. They did not, and then he put a trench through the believers in there and burnt them in fire. So in terms of historicity of this, I mean, different events are referred with all of them having the same flavor, but this is the event. So who are the makers of the ditch? In this case, people say, oh, it was this guy or that guy or whatever. But of course, Quran is a timeless speech. So this could have been one case of what it means. And especially if you think about the first occurrence of the revelation, the rulers of Mecca was exactly doing that. They were making life like impossible for the believers and the followers of the Prophet. So in terms of what did the first people understood from this, it makes perfect sense to understand it as such. So let's first go with that. Who are the makers of the ditch for today? And what sort of fire and nari dhatil waqud, what is fire, what is fuel? Like for today, what does this mean if we ask the question as such? Is anybody like making trenches and throwing believers in them and burning them in fuel? So what sort of a and then they witness what they do to the believers. I mean, here it does not explicitly say, the verse does not explicitly say they are thrown into fire and whatnot. But let's, if we go with that understanding, how would it apply to today? If we go with this way of saying, some people are digging a trench, a hole, making a fire in there. So where are those trenches? Any idea? France? Where? Fire chambers in France? Oh. Oh, it has a fire there. Okay. But are there believers in there or non-believers are? Oh yeah, so it's
So you wouldn't know.
Oh, okay. How about males?
I don't know.
Yeah, where are those trenches? Or what does that mean? And it's a fire with a fuel. I mean, it's a detail, but what would that mean? Let's start from there. A fire with fuel. Those?
Parent.
Disconnected ideas. Yes, any idea? L? Okay, so, okay. Like,
People are being fighting.
yes, sorry. There's a fight here between those people of the trench and believers. So those, I mean, I'll try to read it in a different way too, because the verse in mu'minina shuhud can be understood in another way where, and were themselves the witness of what they did to the believers. This could also be very well understood that they themselves witnessed what they did to believers. Like they were trying to do something to believers, but I mean, one way they observed it from outside, ha, we burned them. The other one is they experienced the same fire within themselves, like they witnessed it for themselves too. And it's the language is perfectly available to understand it both ways.
I think one is classical interpretation of fire, climate change.
Climate change.
And the fuel could be greenhouse gases.
Okay. I mean, there is a climate change of different types too. Like a climate of unbelief is just blazing through humanity. And there's a, like the fuel, especially for the past 200-300 years, this climate of world people being God-knowing to becoming more so like deniers is becoming a common current, or had been a common current, not becoming, it's everywhere. This is the climate change across the globe, which is even now going to the tiniest corners of the world, even the, the farmland in Pakistan, since we have a landlord, they say landlord. So of Pakistan, like even the shepherd has an iPhone or some sort of a phone with which to tap into this. And the fuel is everywhere. Like even if you simply take as how much time we waste on YouTube and the content in YouTube, like the fuel to burn you is everywhere, and it keeps being produced. Or the sources of unbelief which can deviate people from the path by just causing confusion is everywhere, and it keeps increasing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, but it could be like how the scientific method nowadays, or the science, it cuts the connection from God, and how the alternative of the goods, and when we have these new finance coming out, there's no mention of the creator there. I was thinking along those lines too, and then also like just in general, like sins that lead you astray. So, or like that disconnect you from the creator in any way.
Mhm.
And I just had like I was thinking that you know what like that you could be the maker of the dish too, but then the verse that says when they sat by it, that's a little like that doesn't go with that explanation.
So, إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ in here could be again translated as they sat by it, but also عَلَيْهَا, the language perfectly allows again sit on top of it.
Okay, so then yeah, like in that sense, like anything that you're doing, you're also creating a dish for yourself. Anything that you're doing that's straying you away from the creator. And then like it's constantly fueled. If you keep on doing the same things, it's fueled, the fire keeps on getting
Yeah.
fuel. And then you sit on it.
So, yeah, then the fire having a fuel in here is implying that source is being put in there, and which I should question, where is the source of this fire coming from? And if I take, because in Quran, when it talks about the flood, let's say the flood of Noah, I should ask the question, what is the flood of Noah today? And again, in this case, we can say it's the flood of unbelief, which is, and then I should ask the question, where is the source of water coming from for this flood? You could say, let's say, scientific institutions, by misinterpreting their findings intentionally, they are bringing water to this flood. But now in this example, it's becoming a fire. Institutions are bringing fuel to the fire. Let's say there are other consuming the world of, capitalist worldview, is just bringing another fuel to the fire by saying that, oh, consume more, you're going to feel happier if you consume more. And then entertainment industry comes and says, oh, just watch more and to get entertained more, you will find more satisfaction. But it itself is not entertaining me, but increasing my fire. Because why is entertainment bringing you more fire? You just momentarily taste something and it goes away. It doesn't stay with you. Like it is the same thing with using drugs. You get addicted to it, but you enjoy less and less. So you have to either increase the amount or increase the variation. That's why people start to do weird things, extreme sports and whatnot, because doing normal things are not being satisfactory anymore. This is human nature. So adding more is just making more fuel. It's increasing the fire. Yeah.
And the development of technology get a point where AI will replace human beings, and that means they'll have to get fired.
I think you're in your good day today. Come to the Quran class, please. Okay. I know you're getting stressed at work. But yeah, I mean, thank you for those nice trials or thoughts. So, وَهُمْ عَلَى مَا يَفْعَلُونَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ شُهُودٌ. So this is something being done to believers, these fires, but it is sort of backfiring, if you like. Now, if I read it as such, they themselves are also experiencing this fire. Why would this happen? Actually, it's interesting because the next verse is going to start talking about some feeling of wanting to take revenge from the believer. But if you yourself is already having a fire in your heart, because life is meaningless, you couldn't find a purpose or meaning in life, and you're living a life in which you're trying to extinguish this fire with things which is only increasing your fire. So you don't see purpose in life, but then you say, oh, let me study more, work more, so that I earn more money, and then I go to this other country as well. But going to this other country is just making me even more anxious, saying that, well, I tasted the joy, but I couldn't keep it. It just went away immediately. So it's just increasing your anxiety more. But then what do? You share its picture in Instagram and wanting Qadir to get excited about it and fall into the same ditch as you are. You would like Qadir to also go and see, well, first Qadir should say, oh, it's so nice, I should also go there. Admire you first. And then follow the footsteps of yourself, which you yourself is not benefiting from. Why would you like to do that? Why is there this tendency of human being? I mean, let's take it in the easy case, ideologically. Let's say a person is denying God, atheist or agnostic or whatever. And in that person, definitely the heart is just exploded into pieces, no meaning, no satisfaction. And the guy also says, well, we are just living and we are going to become nothing. We're going to become dust. So no satisfaction. It's clear. He himself, herself, said that, yeah, but this is human agony, they would say, and just live by it. Why would you try to convince Atiq or Qadir also that there's no God, man? Come on, you're just in a delusion. It's a God delusion. Why would you make that? If you're already perfectly dissatisfied and hating the life that you live, and you see that Qadir and Atiq are somewhat happier than you are, but why would you try to, quote unquote, wake them up to your nightmare? Yes.
We think there is this anxious part is like when you convince some other people, is like you get validation from it. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not like it's kind of not feeding into your delusion. For example, you're anxious and you feel like what I'm doing, is it right or is it wrong? So you reach out to people, you reach out to like Instagram, social media, and you try to get that validation that every is the correct, get that thing. So okay, it's right, but you're just like presenting that false image and people are also falling for it. It's like, I would say not the truth, it's just like getting validation and more like when you're alone in something, you feel anxious, I would say, like, but like when there's a group of you, like when there are people by your side, you feel more comfortable doing something.
That's correct. What do you think, sir? So then I heard two answers. One of them is having the solidarity in losing, or it could also be that you're trying to validate what you're doing is not wrong. But if you are so sure that what you're doing is wrong, like for example, just go and watch YouTube for what's it, those Kensington Avenue, Philadelphia. Like the people, the drug addicts in there are very much aware of how horrible of a situation they are in. They really hit the bottom. Like literally, this is what they would say. Really, they're at the bottom of a ditch, but they know that it's wrong and they hate it, but they're not able to get out of it. And many people using the drug wouldn't change their mind that this is horrible. because they say like the hangover, like it's good for a few seconds, but once you wake up and you are sick and you try to recover from this sickness, that's what they say, it takes days or whatever to recover from aftershock of drug use, withdrawal from the drug use. You haven't tried it, did you? So they say it's horrible. So they hate it, but they got addicted to it, so they're not able to get out of it. So even more people getting in there is not going to make them feel any better in terms of increasing numbers. Sometimes, yes, it might help. So this one side of it. But sometimes even if we don't know we know it's not even going to help. Yes.
So like practically in that situation, like maybe the idea is that you want, again, like different aspects, you want to bring people down because you can't get out yourself and you're alone.
Mhm.
Maybe that.
This is also possible. Like it sounds more like the second revenge here. Like you are saying that while I am at the bottom of this ditch burning, people out there enjoying is also something that I might get angry with. I don't want them to enjoy either. I would like to pull them down where I am. Like it is this feeling of jealousy or anger towards those people who are still enjoying. Yeah.
There's a saying, misery loves company.
Misery loves company.
Make other people miserable.
I see. Yeah. So that fire, like wanting to pull somebody into that fire. So there are some comments. Let me see. Okay. Voice cut out. It's back. Okay, sorry about that. How is it any different from Galileo saying this earth isn't the center of the universe, for example? Or if everyone starts saying the earth is flat and one stands up and says, no, it's spherical. Based on your logic and reasoning, you reach a conclusion and you clearly see the flaw in the other person's arguments, so you correct them. Why does it have to be revenge? Okay. Yes, if you can, this is Zara's comment. So seeing the flaw is a good thing here, but the imagery in here is that it's a fire. So if your understanding is giving you bliss and you want to share it, I think it makes sense, Zara. And you would like to correct them because what you see is, I mean, in this example, I don't know how much of a bliss whether the earth is flat or like round, but let's say you found something that's good and useful for you, and you would like to share this with people. Let's say people are hungry, and you find food somewhere, and you would like to share this food with people. This is not sharing fire. This is sharing bliss with people. But you are in fire yourself, and you would like to pull people into fire. I think this is the imagery in here. So in this case, I mean, at least per my experience, unbelief is nothing but fire because it is really burning the human's desires, which wants eternity. And somebody who is in unbelief, why would they like to convince others that there is no God? This is a question mark because you yourself are burning in it and you know that it's painful. But as if you're just saying that, look, you are living in a dream of ignorance, Atik, and I would like to wake you up from this ignorance, come to my supposed awakeness, although it is fire. Why would you like to do that? Even if you really think that Atik is in delusion, even if you think, maybe Atik is not in delusion, by maybe Atik is having those وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ, maybe Atik is inside this, what's it? Behind the walls of the city. Maybe he's already protected. He has those convictions, solid convictions. Yet you're trying to trick him. Why would you like to do that?
Is it because they inherit insecurity in their beliefs? They think with numbers that will strengthen it.
Yeah, I think these are all part of it. So taking revenge or having this insecurity and saying that, oh, if everybody is going to think like me, I'm going to feel less alone and whatnot. But in this world, it makes sense. Like in this world, more people living in misery makes sense. But it becomes equal to zero with death. Like more people becoming nothing like me for the mindset of that person. Let's assume that person doesn't believe in afterlife. But when it comes to becoming non-existent, like many people becoming non-existent like me doesn't make my pain any less. All of us are becoming nothing. It doesn't have a remedy to this. As if, like, I'm going to get hanged up until I go to the, gallows. It's good company. We are having company here. Like, I drag people into my, unlawful business. Many people are now going to get hanged. And I say, okay, at least until I get hanged, I'm not alone in the prison. But once you get to the gallows, you don't really care about who is going to be hanged next to you, because this is the end now. Totally you are by yourself. So it's not really helping for the event itself and beyond. So it's not really solving your ultimate problem. But this is where we are. I mean, if you think about it, is such a thing the case? Yes, it is. Yes.
What if they don't see like death as a problem? Like, what if they're oblivious to it? They're like, okay, we'll live this life, and after that there is nothing. So let's just live this life. And like there are a lot of people supporting their delusion, and they feel validated, and like they feel their life is perfect. So what about that? Like, what about those people?
I mean, good for them. Really. If you can live as such, good for you. Can you live as such? You need to ask that question to yourself. Can I live as such? Because people might appear to be doing this like this. I would say, well, I admire you. But look at yourself. You're even worried about whether you will be able to find a job or not. Like, forget about whether you will be able to have another life after this life. You're even worried about 6 months later. And you're having sleepless nights just because, oh, job market is bad. Like, human is, let's talk about our reality. By ignoring, let's say you're in college and you're not making any job application because somebody says, well, job market is so tight nowadays. And you say, well, ignorance is bliss. I don't care about it. And I'm living a happy life. Like, a sane friend of yours comes and says, well, if only I could have been like you, but I'm a human being and I do worry about tomorrow. Because I have to throw away this intellect really to not worry about this. So this is why if somebody says, well, I think this is how it is, I would say, well, congratulations, teach me how you do it. But as a human being, if graduating from university is inevitable, I have to worry about job and job applications. That's basic human logic. If there is death for human, I have to worry about death. You cannot simply say, well, I pretend as if graduation from the college doesn't exist. So I think it's a very, it's just words in mouth. It's nothing but words in mouth. And we should be comfortable saying that if you can do this, well, I'll be the first person following you for the party. I'm going to dance more than you. I will drink more than you. If you can kill death, I think this is how Imam Rasul puts it. He says, if you can kill death, and if you can get rid of this temporariness from me, the separation from me, because human is getting painful from separation, right? If you can take the separation away from me, I'm going to come and join in your parties. Why should I not? This is the problem, right? And we should be comfortable with that, saying that. Because really, it doesn't make sense. If there was no death, if there was no separation in life, it doesn't make sense to worry about afterlife, because there's no afterlife in this case, right? Everything is here and we are enjoying it, and fine, yeah, of course. But we are talking about our reality. Death is there, we are dying. Okay? وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. So those believers, يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. So they are, the word used in there is يُؤْمِنُوا, so it's a continuous act. So you see those people and they keep being steadfast and sure and secure in their conviction. And this is causing a problem. And Al-Aziz Al-Hamid. Why Quran is using in here the believers as they believe in a mighty and Hamid, only praiseworthy creator? Why are these two specific verses? Like, why would the denier who is burning and wants to lit a fire to burn others, but burns in the same fire that he is trying to impose on others, is willing to take revenge from those who believe in, who has security in Al-Aziz Al-Hamid? Why specifically Al-Aziz Al-Hamid? What does this mean? Yeah.
So going back to the example of science, like I feel like they want that to be what's praiseworthy. Oh, this explains everything. We should praise this. You should praise the scientists that are doing this. And like, as opposed to an all divine, like an all knowing creator. They want the praise to be put into like the worldly things and people things.
So what do you think? Does science depict an existence which is mighty, or is it just mundane? Even the most significant thing, let's say if you say, oh, look at this bird, look at this baby that's being born, what would they say? It's simple, man. I mean, it's just DNA replication or something like this. Like a simplification, reduction is what's happening. Yes, please go ahead, Sister Nora. Let's see if we will be able to hear you. Yes, Sister Nuran.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
So this word نقم منهم, it carries a lot of not only hatred and denial, but the degree of hatred where there is rage, and the desire for revenge and everything. And I believe the main source of the hatred is envy, that they envy those believers for being believers. And maybe these two descriptions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Aziz Al-Hamid, like his like they envy this part of their faith, that they believe that Allah is the greatest of all, and that they are grateful. And generally in life, I think this is one of the, or I think that this is the maybe the only thing that people can envy each other over, which is the feeling of gratitude, or the feeling of satisfaction with what Allah has given them. So you might find someone who is like poor or sick, but somehow he has this peace of mind and this satisfaction, And so it's not related to how much you own or how much you have. So this is one of the, main reasons for hatred, and it can reach to this degree that they set up fire in these people just because they envy them so much. And this somehow relates to me for what is happening in Palestine right now. Sometimes they choose the most, the purest people, or the most people who are known to be doers of good, or doers of, because that's when the rage and the envy gets higher and higher. And there is this old story. I don't want to make it long for you, but if you can look up the story of Al Hussein and Muawiyah, where they both proposed to a woman. Muawiyah was a very mean person according to history, and he was trying to he divorced her from her husband to get her married to him. And when they both proposed, the woman favored Hussein because he is related to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that was also the start of the envy and the rage between them.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
So that's what I want.
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. So Al-Aziz Al-Hamid then in this case is Al-Aziz Al-Hamid in bringing something to the world of the believer, that this is igniting the feeling of revenge. Because the lack of Al-Aziz and Al-Hamid in the world of the unbeliever is being the source of the fire. Lack of mighty creator. Because, for example, in today's worldview, things happen by chance. And therefore, you do not expect meaningful outcome from things that happen out of chance. This is why you say, well, they're mundane, they're ordinary. And if you try to load some meaning on top of them, they would say, well, you're just making too many things out of this unnecessary thing. Like nothing is important, neither I am. We just enjoy the life in here, and we are going to die and become a dust. Like in such a worldview, nothing is important other than maybe the gigantic egos of such people themselves, which I could be as such to the degree of I am living this type of a perspective. And I should be blaming myself for that.
Connotation maybe in today's society, like is similar, even like within myself, I think I have some sort of like power over something, or back to the true owner of it. So maybe that's why bringing in the names and that, like people themselves think they have power, think they deserve some sort of praise, example of the scientists, but actually they don't have any share of that.
And existence of people who are praising only the creator, who are seeing the creator as mighty, is becoming a testimony and a reminder on the face of such an attitude, saying that you're a liar. Yes.
First three verses, like, I think when they say they can be believing, it's not just like they do believe, but the degree to which they believe. They swear by the skies and so it's like it's not just they believe, but they also anyone be concerned about. They believe that Allah, that He's the mighty, and because of that, maybe not because of that, but also He's the praiseworthy. I guess for me, it's like the praiseworthy part. I'm not sure how it plays a role, But maybe it's because like he's so mighty that we need to praise him.
Because praiseworthy is Al-Hamid. So, and this is how we say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, first, do you see praiseworthy things in the existence? Like when I'm going to give an example from cartoon. Being a father, I start making dad jokes and giving examples from cartoons. So yesterday, we were watching Bluey. I don't know if you know the cartoon. So there was an episode called Born Yesterday. And the father is just making a joke, oh, I'm not born yesterday. And then the kids say, oh, yeah, just pretend as if you're born yesterday. And then he just pretends seeing when he sees the sun or says, oh, the fireball is coming. And then when he sees a leaf, he just keeps staring at them and whatnot. But after the game finishes, the guy still keeps staring at the leaf. So do you look at things in this existence and see them like meaningful, joyful, or like it's praiseworthy? Just looking at a, like when we were taking art class in, I guess in secondary school or something, they would say, well, things in the universe they're just called art because they're natural. Like this is the worldview. You don't call it art. You don't call it beautiful. It's just, it happens to. But do you see it praiseworthy? Because once you see it's praiseworthy, then there is somebody who is at work. It's a conscious act. But those people, those believers are continually. It's not that once upon a time they said, oh, there must be a praiseworthy God. No, they each and every day, whatever they encounter, they praise the Creator for that. This minuna is important for this reason. Like Iman, as we have been saying in these discussions, it's a conviction. It's not just a jump. You just don't say that, well, I feel like it, so I accept it. Or I heard from my parents, hence I say. No, it's a conviction. So you are sure about it. And every single thing you observe is increasing your conviction. For the believer, the existence becomes, if you like, a fuel for their iman and increases their certainty. For the unbeliever, every existence becomes a source of their fire. Like every nice things in life becomes a fuel for the fire of the disbeliever. Is this part clear, or it sounds very poetic, like a nice word? Like every joyful moment in life, if you are super rich, but you are becoming nothing after the death, every joyful moment is you're just leaving it behind. It brings you pain in your life. The beautiful moments in life is bringing pain into your life. It's increasing your fire. We feel like it's going to increase my joy, but it's bringing my pain because I am leaving them behind. Just imagine, if you haven't known any good friends, you wouldn't have any pain of losing them. But if you have 10 good friends and one by one in front of your eyes, I shoot them in the head. Okay, now they are dead. Are you going to be more painful, less painful? If you haven't known those 10 people at all, and I kill them somewhere else, you haven't seen them, they never existed for you, hence their non-existence wouldn't give pain to you. So for a person who lives in a life as such, bringing more joy into life means bringing more trouble into life. The joy themselves becomes fuel of their fire, of my fire. If I don't see anything beyond this ditch. Let's talk about the third meaning for this tunnel, this ditch. It could also be taken as grave. Do you see grave as a pit of fire where everything is ending and you're just burning in there? Or do you see grave as a tunnel to an afterlife? Because the verse will start talking about believers immediately. And it will start saying that believers do enjoy the very same thing that burns the unbeliever, or what the this denier is trying to burn the believer with is going to bring joy to the believer, as we will see in the following verses. It is the very same pit. For one, it brings fire, which is the unbeliever, but the same thing is going to bring happiness to the believer. And another meaning for this tunnel, because Nursi was using the word ukhdud, and he uses the word tunnel for it. Along with ukhdud, he uses the word tunnel. And he makes a very interesting interpretation in there. He says this also sometimes, and I'm going to take it back to what Zarin was saying at the beginning, philosophers are trying to find truth. I mean, people are not just intentionally trying to deviate other people. Because by human's creation, human is looking for light, human is looking for truth. But the philosopher makes a deliberate choice, saying that I don't want to take message from Sama. I will find answers by myself. So I do not expect my maker to tell me the answers. I rely on myself. I am smart enough. I will find the answers. This is philosopher's perspective, right? Nursi is saying that this resembles the one who is trying to dig a tunnel under the earth to get to the other side of the mountain. Like he uses a metaphor. He says, I find myself under a very dark cloud, and my spirit is just getting crushed because of this sunless environment. And he says, I got a feeling that there is sun on the other side of the mountain. And he says he had 3 journeys. The first one is by walking through the mountain to reach the top, because he says above the mountain were the clouds. He says this is for Maghdub, and he explains it. I'm not going to get into detail, but Dhalin is related to our topic. It says, Wala Dhalin, the Dhalin is the type of people who are digging a tunnel, trying to dig a tunnel from under the mountain and trying to pass to the other side. And he says this resembles the philosopher. Why? The philosopher digs the earth. Like in our previous discussions, we talked about Sama versus Ard. Ard is this horizontal relationships that we have here. What does the philosopher or the scientist do? Looks at the cell and says, oh, cell is multiplying because of DNA. Looks at DNA. What is DNA? DNA is made of this and that bases. Or how about this? Oh, it's happening, like going with trying to dig the earth, trying to find the initial cause, and then making a cycle. Still trying to find an answer, but trying to dig it by digging a tunnel as if. But very few people are, if so, able to get to the other side and find the creator by exclusively going on this path. Very few people. Nursi is mentioning Plato or Socrates from among philosophers, maybe slightly they will be to find a maker at most, nothing beyond that. Says this is a very tough path. So making a tunnel, digging the earth. This is another way to take this. And this digging the earth, which is today's world actually, materialism is simply, or the naturalism, is simply trying to dig the matter, the material experience we have, and saying that, oh, by studying the material itself, by itself, and not listening to Sama, or not expecting any message from my creator, so shutting off my ears to the messengers altogether, I will find the answer. And when Atiq says, no, I am listening to Prophet, I will say, no, I'm trying to drag him into my tunnel or my pit, saying that, oh, you are being dogmatic, and you're just, you got stuck in the Middle Ages, come to this modern time and whatnot. So, which is, and again, another way to take this hit. And وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا أَيُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. So, Al-Aziz and Al-Hamid is bringing the conviction of praiseworthy and the conviction of mighty gives confidence to the believer. saying that, oh, there's nothing, the life is meaningless, is lack of mighty and lack of praiseworthy in the world of the unbeliever. And this meaninglessness is the source of fire. This is why the intiqam, the word of this revenge, comes from the fact that since you're convinced about this mighty, you are feeling comfortable. This is why I hate you. This is where your comfort is coming from. Despite me being this learned man, and you are maybe even a shepherd or following a shepherd called Muhammad والسلام, and you are feeling more secure and sure than me, the learned guy. Like, people get angry with that. How dare? So let me wake him up from his delusions per their understanding and pull him into the fire that I am burning. You shouldn't be happy. You should be happy as much as I am. So, and there's a comment. Okay, so this should tell us, I mean, that because I kept asking that question to myself, why would somebody hate believer? Like, I was trying to find a material reason for that. Like, why would somebody hate a Muslim? What's the motivation for that? Like, other than having some racist feelings, like Greeks hate Turks, Turks hate Greeks and whatnot, it's equally nonsense. But, like, why would somebody like to annihilate Islam, for instance? And again, I put the nationalistic views out of the window. It is there as if supporting a soccer team, you just want to get your team better than the other team. This being put aside, what else is there? Like, intentionally, why would somebody try to extinguish Islam? Yeah.
Putting aside, like, everything, like a danger to it. I feel like
Yeah, I mean, if there are such people, yeah, well, if they come into power, they're going to kill us or do this and that. Maybe if there are genuine people as such warriors, maybe, yeah, put them aside. But why would somebody genuinely hate believers? This verse is pointing to a very interesting point, because believer has this security, Iman is security, in Al-Aziz Al-Hamid, which I should now read it from reverse. What is the role of Al-Aziz and Al-Hamid in your life? How, first of all, how convinced are you about a mighty Al-Aziz maker and praiseworthy Al-Hamid of a creator? And what does this bring into your life? Does your Iman in Al-Aziz and Al-Hamid bring tranquility and bliss into your life? Inshallah, let's think about that until next week, because next week we will read these two verses and more. الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء شهيد. Now the description continues of the creator. Him unto whom belongs the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is of all things the witness. إن الذين فتنوا المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم ولهم عذاب الحريق. Then comes a threatening verse. Indeed, they who persecute believing men and believing women and repent not, theirs verily will be the doom of hell, and theirs the doom of burning. So let me just pull up one verse. So here, verse number 11 is what I wanted to highlight too. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ذلك الفوز الكبير. Indeed, those who believe and do good works, theirs will be gardens underneath which rivers flow. That is the great success. So inshallah, next week, let's try to connect these points, these verses, and try to see where this surah is taking us. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.